Hello and welcome to another macro video. Today our title is DIY macros. In other words, I want to encourage you to create your own macros. So the question really is, how do new macros happen? Well, in my life anyway. Someone comes along and says, is there a macro to do such and such? If there is, then I will point them to the book. If no, then I will write one for them. So what's the actual process of writing a macro? Well, it's fairly important that you kind of work out what's going on, what you're trying to achieve. You analyze the problem, in other words, and you try and work out what steps the macro has actually got to go through in order to do what's required. Once we've worked that out, then I tend to cannibalize bits of other macros, drawing them in and putting them together to make up the macro function that I want. And then of course I've got to test it, hopefully. Okay, so what about the idea of you creating your own macros? I have done some stuff on this, but I've decided to go by a different technique this time and just try and give you a few simple techniques that you can actually use, as opposed to trying to give you a whole load of information, which I did a couple of years ago. I've put a new programming tools section in my book, which will have the stuff from today. But there's reference materials, there's information in the book as to what other books you could use, what references there are. I would say that Jack Lyon's macro cookbook is an essential. The links are in the book, so there's no need to copy them down from the screen. Then I say 2 years ago I thought I would try and explain some of the techniques that I'd used, and I wrote a sizable sort of manual on how to do the programming. And there are 2 other references of other books that you can use to add to mine and the Jack Lyon's one. Again, details are in my book, so no point in putting them here for the moment. I then realised obviously that it's easier to show you on screen what's going on, and so I did some videos, 1, 2, 3 and 4. However, as usual, I made it all too complicated, and that's me. Sorry, I'm used to using all these macros. I've been doing it sort of all day every day for a dozen years or more, and so I find it difficult to sort of keep it simple. So today we are going to try and keep it simple, try and give you a few simpler ideas that you can actually get started with. So we're starting with a real situation. Someone came to me and said that they got a set of definitions, and they wanted to put a bold style on the head words, not just bold, but an actual style that they could change the definition of the style later if they wanted to. So first question, is that a character style they're talking about? Yes, that's fine. Obviously in a way it has to be because of the paragraph style. So my question, is there a particular paragraph style for the definitions? Answer yes. Okay, so we can get started with the actual design. So what we're going to try and do, this is sort of describing what we have to do in the process. For each paragraph in the document, I'm going to look at it and find out if it's in the definition style, and if it is, then I need to add the head word style to the first word in the paragraph. Simple enough. Okay, so whoops, ignore that. So here's your macro. All of the macros in this this video and the next one are going to be DIY something, just so that you can sort of keep track of them. So we've got the date on there, and a single description as to what this macro does. So what does it do? Well, first thing it does is to define a range, an area of the text in which this macro is going to do something, and in this case I want the whole document. I want to go through the whole document and look for definition paragraphs. So we start off by saying for each for each paragraph in range in the paragraphs within the range within the document, and then next par. So this is your loop that you're going to go through over and over again for each of the paragraphs. So what do we do in the loop? We say have a look at the style of that range of the paragraph, and find out if it's a definition style, and if it is, then do something with it. What do you do? Well, you find the first word of the paragraph, and then you look at its style and you make it equal to the head word style. So you apply the head word style to the first word of the paragraph, and that's it. And you go around through that every time, umpteen times, till you get to the end, and then beep just to let me know you finished. So what's this funny do events here? Whenever I've got a looping macro, I always tend to put a do events command in. It doesn't actually do anything, despite it being called a do events. It's a kind of hesitation in the program, because if I get my programming wrong and I get stuck in the macros get stuck in a loop, then I can stop the macro more easily by pressing Control Break. In some loops, if it hasn't got a do events in, it's kind of going so fast that it ignores Control Break, and you can't get out, and you have to you have to kind of crash Word. Okay, so let's see it happen. Okay, put that out of the way. So we want our this is not quite the same as the lady's document. Obviously I can't show that. So I've got mine. This has got, what I've got is these headings here are in heading 3, and these definitions are in normal style. So if I get my macro that I want to do, the DIY format head words, so I've got the selecting the whole range, and then here the names of the styles are normal, and I'm going to apply a style called emphasis. So what I can do, if I put a break, a thing called a break, if I click in that margin there, then if I run this document, it will go around that once, looking at this document below here, and doesn't do anything. Run it again, and as you can see, it's found the first paragraph there and it's applied to the first word of the paragraph, it's applied the style. So that will allow me to go through and do those, but I can take that off and then just tap to go, and it will run through and do the whole lot. But it's relatively slow because it's displaying on the screen all the time. all the time. If I get rid of those, just so that I can show it you again. Oh, come on. So we want to get that right. What I can add in, it's got here, which the one on the titles file didn't. It's got par.range.select. In other words, each time it finds a match, in other words, it finds a file, a paragraph in the normal style, then it will select that paragraph. In other words, it will display it on the screen, and as I go off the bottom of the screen, it will bring it up and it will scroll it up. So if I stop that by putting, if I disable that command, but it would be nice to be able to see what happens. So if I just that's just a meaningless command that's not going to do anything useful, but it will give me something that I can stop at, so I can find out if it's working. So if I run from the beginning, so it stopped at the first one, stopped at the second one. Yeah, it seems to be okay. So if I disable that one now and take the break off and then run it through, you can see it going through. You can't see what it's doing now, it's below the bong. So in other words, that went through more quickly because I wasn't displaying every single paragraph that it found, and there were a lot in this case obviously, because most of the items here were definitions. There was just the titles that weren't. Okay, so that's given a few ideas on that. A couple more macros before we stop. Let's get rid of that one. Not only can you deal with paragraphs, you can also deal with sentences and words in the same sort of way. So here's a nice simple macro. We're going to add a highlight, or actually I use a colour, to sentences longer than a certain length, longer than 50 words. So if I bring in a document, here we go. So I want to run this macro. So same sort of idea, but this time it's for each sentence. SNT is just my abbreviation for sentence. Within the sentences, then if the number of words, the count of the words in the sentence is more than 50, then select it and make it blue. So in other words, I can stick a thing in here to stop it if we want. I can put my dummy, doesn't matter what you call it, really, do me, there you go, just prove the point, equals naught. So if I just stop at that, so I can, and there's the first long sentence it's found, and the next long sentence, and so on. So that one goes through on the sentences, and away it goes through to the end. Okay, so that's sentences. Now we can do the same sort of thing with words. So this time, again, same idea. We want to color and bold. So I've got color index equals blue, and I've got font.bold. So the words font is the font bold is true. I can do the same sort of thing as on that, but again, you'll see if we run it. So if I run it, then it's quite slow. So let's control break to stop it, and lo and behold, it stops at the do events there. Not surprisingly, because you know that's what that's there for, to make it easy for the computer to stop, or for me to be able to stop the computer. So if I take out the selection, then it will go through more quickly. It's a long file. It's 11,000 words. So when it gets through to the end, it bongs at us, and so we can see the results we've got for the where are the long words. Can't see any long words. Oh, there they are. There's various long words there. Okay. Well, that's about it for this time. What I want to do next time is to give you another new technique, but also to produce a macro that you can use when you're trying to learn about macros. So it's a macro to help with the learning. So that's all for now. So as always, those are the ones we were looking at. As always, if you want to know anything, drop me an email at that address. Okay, thanks for watching.